Welcome to episode 3 of the Anything Can Happen Baseball podcast. I'm your host Angel, and today we're going to talk about the San Francisco Giants manager hiring, the Houston Astros sign stealing controversy, and some of the most hated baseball players in history. First off, the Giants hiring. They chose Gabe Kapler as their new manager. That's probably the worst manager to choose. Just look back at the Phillies last year and the year before, and that'll tell the whole story. Kapler is seen as one of the worst managers right now in baseball because he's a micromanager that looks at every single detail and doesn't let the players basically do anything. His managerial record with Philly says it all. In his 2 years there, he has a 161 and 163 managerial record. He's not the best choice for any team, but for the San Francisco Giants, who just lost one of the best managers in Bruce Bochy, this could be a strategy for them. You see, Bruce Bochy never said he was retiring. He said he was taking like a year off from managing. So the Giants right now, they're not in a place for a World Series or even a playoff contention team. So getting Kapler is actually a smart move as a temporary manager. When Bochy decides to come back to manage a team, they could just drop Kapler knowing he's not going to be that good and just bring back Bochy, who's one of the best managers right now. And that's a smart move by the Giants to do if that's actually what they're planning to do. All I can say for the Giants right now after Kapler is good luck, because they're not going to make it that far this year. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the Kapler manager situation. Now for what's been the talk of basically everything baseball for the past week. The 2017 Astro sign stealing scandal. There's really not that many things you could do to the Astros. Some of the ideas that people are throwing out there are actually really stupid. Like Dodger fans and New York Yankee fans are saying, oh, we should get the championship since they cheated. Except the Yankees didn't make the World Series, and we don't know if the Dodgers would have won if there was no cheating. Really, the only things I see that they could do is put an asterisk next to the Astros 2017 World Series win, or strip them of the championship and just put undecided for the 2017 season. Because in reality, we don't know what the season could have been, what the playoffs, what the World Series could have been if the Astros never did the sign stealing. There is so much evidence against the Astros right now that they can't really even argue it. Mike Fiers, one of the pitchers at the time, along with a few other anonymous people, have said the strategy that they use with the camera. There's a video or a picture from their documentary that actually shows ATV and the trash can that looks kind of beat up. So it's kind of difficult to argue what's happened. The way in which they cheated, I feel like, is worse, as if a person actually saw the signs and stole, because they're using technology to steal, which is a whole new level of cheating. And Alex Cora is being investigated, Carlos Beltran is being investigated, and AJ Hinch, the manager of the Houston Astros, is being investigated. The punishment for all three, as I see it, should be that they either get suspended or all fired as managers from the MLB and not be allowed to manage anymore. And I also think this is worse than a PED scandal or Pete Rose gambling scandal, and they shouldn't be allowed in the Hall of Fame. Beltran would have gone in as a player, and Hinch and Cora would have gone in if they had a good managerial career, but now we won't know because this just ruined their whole chances. I seriously think they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame for this. And the Astros, they should be punished by giving up picks, draft picks, or in some other shape or form that the MLB can come up with. This really has changed the game. And now we just gotta wait and see what the punishment is going to be for the Astros. Some people are saying that they should play this year but not be allowed to make the playoffs. That is the stupidest thing I've heard, along with giving the championship to one of the other two teams. But they need to be punished in some shape or form that'll be a lasting punishment so no other team will do this again. Good job, Astros, on ruining everything. You guys suck. And now, from one of the most hated teams in baseball right now to some of the most hated players in baseball history, I'm going to say some of the players that I really dislike throughout baseball. And you guys can put in the comments what you guys think about them, or put some of the players that you guys don't like either and why. The first two on my list are players that are actually playing now, and it's for similar reasons that I don't like them. Their personalities: Bryce Harper and Garrett Cole. Bryce Harper is a guy that a lot of baseball fans don't like for his personality because he has that arrogance that just comes off him. And he was a good baseball player. He still is a good baseball player, even though this past year wasn't his best. The problem is he thinks he's the best out of everyone, and that just annoys people. All you gotta look is the Washington Nationals this past year. Once he left, they actually looked like they were having much more fun without him. And they made the World Series without him. So it shows that his toxic personality just like lowered that team's morale, whereas without him, they were able to do much more than when they had him, who's supposed to be one of the best players right now. Bryce Harper's stats for 2019 was 35 home runs, a 260 batting average, and a 4.2 WAR. Now, those alone look like good stats, but then you gotta remember he had a $330 million contract with Philadelphia. So then when you compare it to his actual contract, these are not stats that a $330 million person should be doing. It's better than he was doing at the beginning of the season, which says a lot, because he was terrible when the season began. As time went on, he got better, and he still has 12 more years on that contract to show that he is worth that $330 million that they signed him for. Then when you move to Bryce Harper's other half, Garrett Cole, same problem with him that I have with Harper is his personality. He was a good guy up until right after Game 7 of the World Series ended, where in less than half an hour he just betrayed the Astros basically and put on his agent's hat and said he doesn't represent the Astros no more. Like, okay, we get it, you're a good player, but this season just got to his head, I feel like. Before the season, yeah, he was a good player, but this one exceeded any amount that anyone can think. But I guess in his head, he just thinks, oh, he's the best pitcher right now just because of this one season. It's going to be a hard hit for him when he leaves the Astros and their pitching coach. But now that we look back, it could have also been because of the cheating scandal that he did good. But it's going to be a hard hit when he goes to another team and his pitching is not up to par. And then he can't have that little arrogance that he has right now. So Garrett Cole has to fix that personality of his before he goes to a different team. And his stats don't match up with his talk. He better pitch the pitch if he's going to talk the talk. Garrett Cole and Bryce Harper are two guys I don't want to play here in Miami. I don't care how good they are. With that personality, it's going to get to their head, especially down here in Miami. So it's better that they don't get traded or come down here because it just won't be good for everyone, basically. I really wouldn't want them here at all. And speaking about the Miami Marlins, the next guy that I don't like, Derek Jeter. When it comes to Derek Jeter, I think of the phrase, you either die a hero or live long enough to become a villain. And that is exactly what happened to Derek Jeter. The captain, as everyone knows him as. I never really liked him, even when he was playing. with the Yankees. Not that I hated him back then, but he never caught my attention. It was more A-Rod that he was the Miami boy, so he was more the person that any Miami person would like, even with his personality. And now that you look at it, A-Rod is actually somehow turned into the good guy and Jeter into the bad guy. And they also have a little rivalry in between them. But anyway, Jeter just ruined the Marlins. Of course, that's the reason why I don't like him. And I feel like he's doing it out of spite because the Marlins beat the Yankees in 2003 when he was playing. What other reason would he have to release Jeff Conine, who's just like a commentator or analyst? Like, he didn't play a part at all in the Marlins how they play, but he was on the team that beat Jeter's Yankees in 2003. Not only that, but he trades our best players in Yelich, Ozuna, T. Gordon, and Stanton to the Yankees. Our best player at the time, he gives to his former team. Now, looking at it now, the Stanton one doesn't really matter because Stan just became an injury prone person. Like this year, he played like 13 games with the Yankees. So if that would happen here in Miami, it's like whatever then that he gave it to the Yankees, better for us. But you can't say he's doing it to help the Marlins or rebuilding the Marlins. He says that we need to be patient, it'll take time. We were so close to making the playoffs with that team that we had that we didn't have to trade anyone and we would have made it. But his pettiness and jealousy from 2003, 15 years, he's worse than a child. So he lets go of all our best players and is using the excuse of rebuild. And that is why I do not like Jeter. Like, he could have came and helped the Marlins and he would have added on to his legacy. But instead he's just ruining his reputation. And now he's supposed to go into the Hall of Fame this year. Or this is the first year that he's on the ballot. So I hope he doesn't get in. But he will because of his career. And the next guy that I dislike is actually someone that I just found out about recently. I went from liking him to 30 seconds later hating him. Ozzie Guillen, who played for the White Sox throughout his career, he was an outspoken guy, and I like that type of personality. He didn't go to the White House visit when the White Sox won because he knew he was going to cause controversy if he went. This is where I don't like him when he comes to Miami and he makes comments praising Fidel Castro, the Cuban dictator, in a Cuban community as he's the manager of the Miami Marlins. Luckily for his stupidity, he got suspended for 5 games and then the Marlins fired him. One of the Marlins baseball chief operators stated that after his stupid comments, that the Marlins' attendance went down and it hasn't gone back up since. Guillen is a retard. He's Venezuelan. His own country is in communist dictatorship right now, and he basically respects a dictator who killed a bunch of people. This was his comment. I love Fidel Castro. I respect Fidel Castro. You know why? A lot of people have wanted to kill Fidel Castro for the last 53 years, but that mofo is still here. You are retarded. You realize that. I wish someone would actually try and get you. Like, I wish someone would throw him in Venezuela as a poor person and just not give him any hope and see how he feels about Castro or dictatorship or communism after that. So, Ozzie Guillen, if you ever hear this, F you. Come mierda comunista. And now for my most hated baseball player of all time, Jose Canseco. Jose Canseco is a name that you don't have to be a baseball fan to know who he is. And that's not good. I don't even know where to start with him. He was roided up to the gills in the 90s and 2000s when he played baseball. He's arrogant. He's a lunatic, basically. He says any stupid thing that comes to his mind. He does whatever possible to stay in the limelight. Oh, and he beat his wife and went to jail several times. Canseco is the person that nobody really likes in baseball, out of baseball. He's just one of those top guys that's probably the most hated purely because of how lunatic he is. If you look at his Twitter, he just says the most random stuff. Like the other day, he tweeted to Tim Tebow, "Oh, I can teach you how to hit home runs. You'll be hitting 40 home runs a season." Oh, and that he's still able to hit 500 feet softballs. Congratulations, Jose. You're able to beat men that are like 20 years older than you and have a foot in the grave, basically. The stuff he says is like he's happy that he's able to beat old men in softball. Or another thing was he says that A-Rod cheated on J-Lo. Like, he says these things purely just to stay famous because he knows that's the only way he's still going to be relevant. If not, then it's over for him. He's not going to go in the Hall of Fame, I'm pretty sure, because of all the steroids he did. One of the best moments of him is when a baseball actually hit him in the head and went over the home run area and it counted as a home run. That probably played a role in him being a complete lunatic right now. I doubt it. He was probably already one, but still. Um, but Jose Canseco in general, yeah, he's the one that I hate the most because of his personality, of him being a lunatic, him being arrogant and narcissist, and just trying to do anything to stay famous. Even though nobody liked him, nobody likes him, and nobody will like him because he's just a whack job. He really should be in an insane asylum for the stuff he says. And I hate that he's Cuban, so it's like he's one of us, but at the same time he's not because none of us Cubans like him either. So we are not associated with him. Anyone else can have him. Jose Canseco is the worst guy. He's my most hated baseball player in history. So out of all the guys I mentioned, who do you guys dislike the most? Cole, Harper, Jeter, Guillen, Canseco, and who's your most hated baseball player? Leave it down in the comments. And what do you guys think about the Houston Astros sign stealing scandal? Leave that also down in the comments. Thank you guys for listening to episode 3 of the Anything Can Happen Baseball podcast. Next week, we'll talk about more news on the Houston Astros scandal and some of my most favorite baseball players. I think the Houston Astros scandal shows that anything can happen in baseball. See you guys next week.